Hello everyone, this is Marvin Alvarez, a JR team. Today presenting XG14. It's going to be a demonstration and setting up an XBuss system. Installing this on an F-15C from Feibao is the 1/7 scale. Okay, so this is the XG14. It's a really nice setup, 14 channel radio, either a PWM or a full XBuss system. And as we go along, you'll get to understand XBuss. For those who don't understand, we'll learn a lot about it. And always keep looking at my videos. I'll have some other information on other from all JR. Okay guys, so usually since I'm setting up the system in XBuss, I'm gonna go ahead and talk really quick about setting up XBuss from the transmitter. You go into your main menu, F for next page. I'm gonna go into my system list. I'm gonna click XBuss. I'm gonna activate it. I'm gonna go into mode A. This is the proprietary mode for what we're going to be using here in the United States. Mode B is a different setup. We don't really use it unless somebody is going to be using it. This is not the right video for that. So now that I have set up the XBuss function, I'm gonna go back into the main menu. Now I have it ready to bind the receiver. Okay, for this installation, I will be using the RG812XBP, which is a full 8-channel receiver, or a full XBuss, which is going to give me the 14 channels that I have on this XG14. Now the receiver has an ESW for a switch, and then the mode sensor, which I'll go over that, and I will explain about how to set up this receiver into a full XBuss system or a regular 8-channel receiver. Okay, with the receiver there is many ways to switch it on and off. I'm going to be using, provided with the radio, the extension with what it looks like a bind plug. Disconnect to activate the receiver, and then you connect to disconnect the receiver. ESW is the JR connector type. Plug it in. Now it's actually set up as a switch mode. Whenever you have a battery connected, this is a 16-gauge wire, which is for high current. In case you're using servos such as the NX servos that operate as well on 7.4 volt battery 2S, you can plug them directly here. I will be using a live battery for this installation on the F-15. Once it's connected, you disconnect here, and then the receiver gets activated. I'm gonna go ahead and do the bind on this receiver to show you how simple it is. Go ahead and get the radio turned on. I'm in the system list here. I'm gonna go F for next page. Now you're gonna see bind. We're gonna click bind. What's gonna happen is now all you gotta do with the receiver off, you put the radio to bind, disconnect the battery or the switch. Success. Please check your failsafe. Alright, so now it's ready for the receiver to be used as a regular PWM. So when you connect it into channel 1, that's the throttle. When you connect it into rudder, that's your rudder. When you connect it into your throttle, there's your throttle. When you connect it into your aileron, there's your aileron. When you connect it into elevator, there's elevator, and so on. Everybody understands this. Okay, I'm gonna shut up the receiver now. Receiver is off. When you get the receiver, you will receive what looks like a bind plug, or switch plug looks just like a bind plug. We're going to connect it mode sensor on the bottom here. Now you're going to watch what's going to happen. There is going to be an LED here, green. You probably saw it earlier blinking. What happens is when you have that blinking, it's telling you what mode this receiver is in, either the regular PWM mode or the actual XBuss. We go to the bind, click bind, it's binding. I'm going to disconnect, and there is success. You can see that there's a green LED light on it. That green LED light means that this receiver is now XBuss ready. You don't use this no more, you put it on the side. This XBuss receiver, it's set to an XBuss. All the servos, they are programmed channel 1, servo number 1. That's how they all come from JR. So when you click on the throttle, that's what's gonna work. But if you know, obviously nothing's gonna work. When you go to aileron is not gonna work, because now this receiver, the green LED is showing us XBuss. So doesn't matter where you connect it, it's going to work whatever channel the servo is programmed. Program servos in two different ways, and I will explain that to you. One of them, it's with the XB1-CPG box or the actual radio, and I'll explain to you in a few minutes. Now that we have this set up to the XBuss, I'm going to explain to you about the XB1-CPG programmer. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the XB1-CPG channel programmer. So you have X1 for channels 1 through 9 and X10 from channels 10 and up. Also, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are on the red line. But what that's for is once you have your servo programmed to an individual channel, then you're going to tell it whether that servo is number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4. If you have elevators, you can have the left elevator on servo 1 and then the right elevator on servo 2. Both of them are programmed to channel 3 for elevator. Then you can communicate with the transmitter on that specific channel. Okay, now that we understand that the X1 is for channels 1 to 9, X10 is for channels 10 and up, and the red line 1, 2, 3, and 4 is for servo 1, servo 2, and 3, and 4, I'm going to show you how each individual servo gets actually programmed. You have a battery, you will go ahead and plug your battery here, and then your XBuss servos. Remember, from factory, all servos from JR that are NX servos will be programmed to channel 1, servo 1. So all of them are going to be the same. So if you're going to try to change a servo from the transmitter, I will show you how that's done, because you cannot connect all servos into the XBuss system and then try to do one servo. What's going to happen is going to change all servos individually. So I'll explain to you how that's done. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and plug battery and bring my first servo, which is the NX588. Okay, most important, you always gotta have it on 0 and 0 when you program. So you're gonna click set. Once you have it on set, you're gonna tell it, let's put this guy on channel 2. There's channel 2 right there. You click set, it's gonna be blinking. Now it's ready for you to tell it what servo is going to be. So let's go ahead and tell it that it is servo number 1. That's it. So this servo has been programmed to channel 2 and is servo number 2. Okay, I'm plugging servo number 2 here. Make sure it's on 0, 0. I'm set. I'm gonna go to channel 2 because we already did the first one. I'm gonna set it to channel 2. Now I'm going to tell it that this is servo number 2. So now it's flashing, it's ready for it to understand what servo number it is. So I'm going to set it now in servo number 2. Once you have done that, then you can go ahead and disconnect the servo. And servo has been programmed to channel 2, servo number 2. And the other servo I did first is channel 2, servo number 1. That's how you use the XB1-CPG and then program each individual servo. If you have regular PWM servos, you will buy the XB1-CB4 PW converter. It's one single line, okay, that will connect either to the servo or to the hubs. This will be actually programmed to individual channels, and we will go over that later on the video. Okay, so on the XB1-CPG, now you understand how to program each individual servo. Okay, so once we have understand how to set up the receiver to an XBuss, we saw the green LED light. When it's on, that means that this is an XBuss ready receiver. When there is not a solid green light here, when it's off, it means it will be a PWM ready, regular servos. But I have converted this receiver 812BPX. I have set it up to an XBuss system. Hubs. This is the XB1-HB6. It's a 6-port connector with a regular JR connector, which will plug into the receiver. Or if you connect it to another hub to get more channels in further areas of the airplane itself. Now, we also have the XB1-HB5, which is a 5-port. It has 6 ports, is white, but that one is for a battery. You can connect a battery on it if you want to have a battery closer to the servos, and it looks just like this one here, but it's white. And that one is for you to put your battery on it. This one already brings power from the receiver. Okay, so basically now we're going to go ahead and show you how the XBuss servo works, how we can program through the transmitter, and this amazing technology that we can use. Go ahead and turn on the radio. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and activate the receiver. As I had said earlier, there's a green light that tells us this receiver is XBuss ready. I'm going to have this servo, which is the NX6421. This is a 520 ounce torque servo in 7 volts or 2 cell, and 444 ounces in 6 volts. Now this one is already set up to channel 1, servo 1. That's how they all come from factory. I'm going to show you. Once it's plugged in, doesn't matter where you put it, it's going to work to channel 1 because it's set up for channel 1. Remember, it's this receiver now, it's actually a XBuss. So all these channels here does not mean nothing now. All the connectors here are XBuss. So you can connect all XBuss here. Depending on what channel the servo is memorized to or programmed to, that's what it's going to respond. I just plugged it in a different channel. You're going to see it's still throttle. Alright, so that's how that works. Is the XB1-HB6. It's a 6-port. You can connect up to 6 servos here, or 5 servos, and then extend this one to the next hub. Okay, I'm going to plug now my servo. I'm going to plug it in another port. Still all working through channel 1. Why? Because it's actually a throttle servo that has been programmed to channel 1 from factory. I'm going to plug another servo. Now remember, these servos are not programmed yet, so they all are going to work with channel 1. Channel 1. Now this is the servo that I programmed just earlier. I'm going to plug it in the hub. Now that's not working because we made it channel 2. Channel 2 is aileron. There's no elevator, there's no rudder. Okay, so I'm going to remove all the servos from the hubs. Since I know I got this one on channel 2, servo number 2, I'm going to actually leave it connected. Okay, so I'm going to leave this one on the side. I'm going to grab this other servo. So we got throttle and an aileron, which that's servo number 2. Okay, so I'm going to show you here how this is done. We're going to go into the function list, F for next page. We're going to go to the system. We're going to go to the XBuss. Now let's go ahead and click on the servo and converter. Perfect. An important thing to remember, once you're in the XBuss setting, you want to go into that specific channel in the servo that you're setting. For instance, all the servos come programmed in the throttle channel, and all of them are servo number 1, and change to whatever channel you're looking at. For instance, aileron, you make that then you servo 1 and you set it. Once your servo has changed to aileron after you had set it, you can go ahead and then change it to any other channels that you're looking or you're needing for your installation. The importance here is that you always need to go first to the ID, which is the servo that you're working on, and then changing it. If you're doing one servo at a time, then you always keep it on throttle, servo 1, and then you do your ID change and your servo number change. Okay, so we are in the XBuss setting. I'm going to go to ID changer. So I'm going to go ahead and change the throttle. Let's go ahead and change the throttle to, let's say, the elevator. Let's make it servo 1. Okay, so set. Now that's working as the elevator. No more throttle. No more throttle. Now we have aileron and elevator. Okay, now I'm going to show you here. Let's go and put this guy back again into throttle, servo 1, set. So there you go. And then let's go to aileron, which is the one that we have now. Okay, and then let's go ahead and then change it to throttle and servo 1 and set it. Now you saw it didn't change, and I'm going to explain to you why. Because we are on the aileron 1, right? We want to go to the aileron 2. Now we're in the aileron 2. We want to change it to throttle 1, okay, and then servo 1. Now you click set. You saw how it moved? Now both of them are on the throttle and servo 1. We have both servos are actually on throttle, both of them are, and servo 1, servo 1. Watch what's going to happen if you were to connect all the servos in the airplane without changing them individually. Let's go ahead and then change to, let's go rudder, and then we'll just leave it a servo 1 and then set it. See what happens? Now both of them have changed. Why? Because you have to make sure that each individual servo, it's on its individual ID, which is ID 1, ID 2, ID 3, or ID 4. That's why you want to do each individual. As you plug it in, what I will suggest before you install them into your aircraft, make sure you set them outside. Make sure you know what servos you're going to put on the left side, on the right side of the elevators, the rudders. I mean, my F-15, I got 2 rudders, I got 2 ailerons, and I got 2 flaps. So I'm going to set up everything outside here, one servo at a time. You don't have to disconnect them after that. I mean, once you set up the first servo, you will be totally fine. Okay, so how will you fix this? So you disconnect one servo. Okay, so you're on the rudder. Let's change it to, let's make that elevator, and then servo number 1. Okay, and then set. Now that's working on the elevator. Okay, perfect. Now I'm gonna go ahead and come back, connect my other servo to the hub. Now you have elevator and rudder. Okay, let's change that rudder into something else. So we gotta go into rudder. Now let's change the, let's change it to the aileron. Channel aileron ID 1, and let's do set. Now, see, it's working to the aileron and then my elevator. So that's how you do each individual servo from the radio. You don't want to connect them all, because then you're going to end up programming all servos to the same channel instead of one individual. So I will suggest you do one servo at a time. Okay, so you can see there's your receiver, and there's your single line, which is the hub, and then it separates into the 3 servos. Now we have aileron, elevator, and and then throttle. All of them are programmed are in channel aileron ID1, channel elevator ID1, and then channel throttle ID1. Then you can come here and then do each individual change. So one of the important things you have to remember, everything that you program here will be memorized by each individual servo. So whether you did the reverse, the neutral to travel adjustments, or you went through the whole pages, whatever you program in this servo is automatically programmed in the servo, not on the transmitter. This is only XBuss setting, and that's how things will work out. So basically what you're looking at here is an understanding how you can have one cable. On my F-15, I'm going to have one receiver on my left side of the fuselage all the way down to the center of the fuselage, where it's going to separate into my aileron, flap, and let's say this will be steering. I mean, I'll keep it next to the receiver. I'll just have one cable coming out from the receiver. But the most amazing thing of this technology is you have one cable going all the way through the back, and that's how I'm going to have the F-15. The only time you're going to have a lot of cables is when you have servos that are near each other. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the servos that I'm using now on this assembly. I'm going to be using the NX588. This will be on my rudders and the actual valves for the gear and the doors. The NX588 has 87 ounces or 6.5 kilograms centimeters on 6 volts, or 106 ounces or 7.4 kilograms on 7 volts or 2 cell. On 6 volts, the NX8935 has 200 ounces in torque or 16 kilograms centimeter on the 6 volts. Or on the 7 volts, it has 247 ounces in torque or 17.8 kilograms centimeters. Now this is going to be my elevators and my flaps. The NX6421 has 444 ounces in torque on 6 volts and 32 kilograms on 6 volts. And 520 ounces in torque on 7 or 2 cell battery, and 37.5 kilograms centimeters on 2 cell battery. Okay, so I have actually connected the converter. This is the XB1-CP4. What this does, it converts into regular PWM servos. Let's just go ahead and imagine that these 3 servos are regular 8711s or 8911s. They have nothing to do with XBuss. I just connected this one on number 1, second servo on number 2, and then the third servo on number 3. XB1-CP4, just like the XBuss servos, they come programmed on channel 1, which is throttle. What's going to happen? All of them are going to work on the same channel. All the ports are programmed by servo 1, servo 2, and then servo 3 and servo 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the throttle. Okay. Now, right now we are programming the XB1, and we're going to go ahead and tell it. So we want to be in the throttle now. Okay, and what's going to happen is we're going to tell it that we want servo 1 to become aileron, and we'll make that, servo 1. So that's fine, and then set. So now that's working as aileron, and the other 2 stay. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and then tell it, let's go back to throttle. Now let's go back to number 2, because that would be connection number 2, and let's go ahead and make that elevator, and then servo 1 and set. Alright, so we got elevator and aileron and then throttle. Alright, so we gotta go back into the throttle. Remember, that's how they come programmed from factory. So we're in the throttle. Now we want to go to sub 3, and let's make that the gear. Alright, and that will be number 1 and then set. So as you can see now, there is the gear. So each individual port has been programmed to the XB1-CPG. And that's what's so cool about this. If you happen to have just non-XBuss servos, you can use still conventional servos such as 8711s, 8911s, etc. Servos that are non-XBuss. These servos here are XBuss. With this, we were able to use it with the PWM converter because we're just telling the converter each individual line to be programmed to the channels that you saw that we just did earlier here. So this is what's good about the system. You have a lot of options. It's what's so great about it. So this is something that I would love to have other people use it. It's a technology that we have. Let's take advantage of it. Now this is the axis gyro. It's a 3-axis gyro. It's also an XBuss system. I will be doing another video once I have installed it on the F-15. We all can have a better understanding of the gyro itself. It's a pretty longer video, so I don't want to add it here as this video it's a little bit quite long yet. So it is, as you can see, input on the bottom right corner and output on the top right corner. That's how you will install it to make it XBuss. But like I said, I will do a whole video on its own on the 3-axis intelligence gyro. So throughout my assembly of the F-15, I will be doing this a full XBuss. I'm gonna have 2 receivers of the RG812XBP RX on the left side of the fuselage, and another receiver secondary for redundancy on the right side of the fuselage. I'm gonna have 1 cable going out and then separating obviously to each individual servo, such as the ailerons, flaps, and steering gear. I'm gonna have regular valves, manual valves, with the smaller servos, so I can actually maintain everything here XBuss. If I use regular digital valves, I will have to use more of the XB1, but I'm trying to keep this as simple and as light as I can on this F-15. Not that it needs it, but I just want to be able to take advantage of our amazing technology that we're using with the JR Xbus. Now, most of you guys, when you see us out there in the flight line, shows, events, swap meet, and hobby expos, do not hesitate to come to us and ask us. That's what we're there for, to explain to you, show you, and to most of our knowledge, so we can explain this amazing system that JR is bringing to every single one of us. So when we are out there, just come by and say hi to us and give us a call, and we'll be more than happy to assist you guys. All right, everybody, have fun and happy landings.